You can see from the results why Saudi Arabia, as that de facto leader of OPEC Plus, so insistent on higher oil prices, pits them often against Russia and some of the other OPEC Plus members that want to pump more instead of trying to cut to prop up that oil price. But, Aramco profit, up almost fourfold year on year, despite producing 1 million barrels per day less year on year. That's 8% less. Of course, oil is that lifeblood of Saudi Arabia, and Aramco is that engine that powers Saudi Arabia. So, when we're checking in on the financial health of Aramco, it's a measure of, the financial health of the kingdom, really. We know that the government led by de facto, the leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he's got a lot of ambitious projects to try and diversify the Saudi economy. Higher oil prices mean higher profits for Aramco to fund these projects. So, we've often noted this. It's that irony of Saudi Arabia, in order to wean itself off of its dependence on oil revenue, which is an existential matter for Saudi Arabia. It needs those higher oil prices in the short and medium term. So, when we look at Aramco's earnings, that's really the story that we're looking at. How are things shaping up for financially for the company and the government, and how's the government positioning itself for the future of the world economy? And certainly the fate of the kingdom rests on that recovery from the pandemic. And it's a much brighter picture today than it was a year ago or maybe even a quarter ago.
Herman, we've spoken a lot on the channel about the short and long-term motivations of oil companies. First up, to get that recovery in earnings, but also to plan for the long term and get rid of assets that may become stranded assets down the track, given this push towards ESG. What do you make of Saudi Aramco's efforts to double down on those capacity producing facilities instead of giving the money to shareholders at this point? Is it wise, or do you think it's a bit risky?
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about Aramco as it goes forward. Now on the dividend, we got to keep in mind that they did not cut their dividend through the worst of the pandemic. They've maintained that $75 billion dividend that they promised when they IPO'd. And that was one of the things that we were looking at all along. Would they be able to maintain that, in the face of that? And what does it mean? They actually chose to cut CapEx last year to help prop up that dividend. They went to the bond market to try and maintain that dividend and to keep investing in its company. Now, of course, it's a much better picture. Now oil prices around $70 a barrel, where we sit today, and it's a much brighter picture for them to maintain that dividend. So, I hear a lot of the investor questions are, will they do what the other oil majors are doing and give some money back to their shareholders? Well, we got to remember that the biggest shareholder of Aramco is the Saudi government. Aramco is almost a quasi arm of the Saudi government, and where they see their investment needs are that maintaining that world-class leading position as the world's largest exporter of crude. And when right now their production is constrained by the OPEC Plus cuts, but at full tilt they can do 12 million barrels per day. They're trying to increase that to 13 million barrels per day, and that's a big question in the market. Is Aramco going to need 13 million barrels per day of production in a world where peak demand may be just around the corner? It's like building that extension to the house that you don't really need, just as the kids are leaving the house to go off to university. But we've heard from the Saudi energy minister and from Herman, the CEO of Aramco. They're pressing on with this. They see themselves as being the last man standing in this oil market with some of the cheapest production costs. And so, being able to claim more of that market share even in a shrinking market, that's kind of their strategy going forward. And so you've seen them kind of dismiss some of the big concerns about the future of the oil market, the future of oil in the world economy. They're pressing ahead with this. Time will tell whether this is the right decision or not. But right now, they're standing on those low-cost reserves, and they think tapping those while they can is the answer.